Today's episode is sponsored by the Christian Standard Bible. The goal of the CSB is to be faithful to the original languages without sacrificing clarity, all the while maintaining both accuracy and readability. With beautiful designs and multiple study Bible options, everyone, from adults to teens to children, can find a CSB Bible that they enjoy. Learn more at csbible.com.
Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Marc, Hyde.
And Chris Fuller.
And today we are coming to you from the new RTC home, the new official studio in your basement, good sir.
Yes, sir.
And today we're talking about, is deconstructing your faith a bad thing? It seems like the term ex-evangelical is growing like crazy on TikTok and Instagram stories. And we're going to ask, is this a good thing to do, or is it a bad thing to your faith? You ready, Fuller?
Let's go.
Let's go. Woo, welcome back, good sir.
What's up? 2022.
We made it.
So we finished off. The last new episode was 10 things to ask yourself going into the new year.
Yep, and we recorded that before Thanksgiving.
We did. And then we had 3 throwback episodes.
Yep. So the first one, which that was just kind of cool to go back and listen to. So
It's some old school
I will
stuff.
say, though, our old intros are so boring.
Yeah, they are. But that's all right.
I mean, my voice cracked at the beginning of this one, so I can't really, because it's always, welcome to Real. But bringing Soche back
our
for
lights
music.
flashing really
Our lights
fast.
Wow. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, we are in the new studio. We have the new Turned by Sabrina, the Captain American vibe shield.
Yeah.
That your wife bought you for,
Father's Day.
Father's Day.
I believe it was for Father's Day.
And you got some new, we got some new arms for our microphones.
That was a Christmas present.
That was a Christmas present.
Yep.
And
new table.
New table, new chairs.
New chairs.
New paint.
New paint. Yeah.
We are officially not official. We are official. We're still not official.
We still got some things to do.
I'm just kidding. We got stuff to do.
We're getting there though.
But it's exciting,
It is
though.
exciting.
We were talking before we started. This is the 6th. Oh man, why would it have to be that word? Sixth. If you're a new listener, you have no idea about the jokes. Go back and
Rewind
episode like 4. I can't say 6.
I think we were talking about it for like the first 50 episodes.
Probably. I say Sith, like 4th, 5th, 6th, like
Sixth.
it's a Sith Lord from Star Wars. But this is our 6th location for RTC, I think.
Yep, number 6.
Because we were first at my house. Well, we were in 3 different rooms in my house.
Right, yeah, 3
And
different
then
rooms.
we went to
From there,
church.
We did an episode. We did a couple episodes at the church with the youth.
That's right,
But
early on.
We did some episodes at your mom's house.
Yep.
We did an episode at your new house.
Beth and I did, yeah.
Well, and then you and I did the giveaway there too.
We did the live giveaway.
The
We need to go
100th
live
episode,
again.
I
That
think.
was fun.
And then we did the Dudes and Dads over in Goshen, Indiana. We drove
Yep.
out there and did an episode with them. And now here.
And finally,
Your
house.
No. I had Paul Lindgren on for 3 episodes at my
At
old
the old
house.
house. That's right.
So 6 or 7. 7th location.
7 different locations, and hopefully the last. Hopefully this
At least
is
for a
home.
while.
At least for a while. But we are at your house. Janelle and the kids are upstairs. Hopefully
They're
asleep.
in my bed. No, they're in my bed watching TV.
Oh, Janelle's keeping them quiet.
Well, that and the kids love to lay in my bed, so
Why not?
it's like she can keep them quiet and calm them down and keep, everything quiet for us all at the same time. So
it is a win-win all across
yeah,
the
it's
board.
great. So,
But it's cool.
it's so good to be back together. We, again, like Mark said earlier, we haven't recorded together since before Thanksgiving, and now this is
And
second week in January.
even though we go to the same church, we haven't really seen each other that much because you were
Well,
out sick and then
you've
we
got-
were traveling.
Well, and then we all got kids, and they're running every which way, and you got to go pick up kids from the nursery, and it's just a lot. So, yeah,
so
it's been-
it is good to be back, my friend.
It's like,
To be back. We're drinking good coffee again.
let's talk about.
Should we
that
talk about it
coffee.
right now?
Let's talk about it
All right,
because you brought it up.
We got, first, I already said her name once, Sabrina from Canada.
Okay.
Wait, Sabrina is help me out, Sabrina. Are you in Toronto? Because you're in Ontario. No, Quebec. I think you're in Quebec, right, Sabrina?
Eastern Townships of Quebec, Canada. Okay, so
you read the note. You read the note.
Well, this is one note. I don't know what I had. She sent 2 pieces of paper. She sent us Christmas cards, which I'm just saying that was the best thing. We love hearing from our listeners, through email and everything. But getting a handwritten letter to us and our family was just phenomenal.
And more than that, though, it was a Canadian Christmas card.
Oh yeah, it was like the packaging was like paper,
was
brown
so
paper
cool.
wrapped, and it was like perfectly wrapped. It was awesome.
Needless to say, Sabrina, I don't ever keep Christmas cards, so I'm keeping this one.
She's got the coffees right here. Remember when I was writing them on top?
Yep, and we're not drinking her coffees this episode.
Not this episode. We'll do it next episode. But she said, "Hi, podcast fam. For the holidays, here's a little gift from some of my favorite coffee shops here in the Eastern Townships of Quebec, Canada." And then Café de la Brûlerie, coffee beans aged in cognac barrels, I think is what it says. I'm not French. I'm sorry, Sabrina. I'm probably going to murder this pronunciation. Café de, so that was Café de Brûlerie by Granby.
Malaria? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, something like that. Hubert Saint Jean, Silverbrook, Quebec. One of her best friends roasts their coffee. Georgian, I'm sure that's wrong. Oh, maybe it's Sherbrooke. St. Jean, Sherbrooke, Quebec. Another lovely micro roaster friend of mine roasting there, and she put "enjoy." It was so cool to get that as a little Christmas. Hi, how are you? But the coffee we are drinking today is not from Sabrina. Who's it from?
Well, that's the thing is I can't find the message.
What?
I'm scrolling through Insta. I need to scroll through our Insta. So
I thought it came on wait. You sure it came on Insta? It didn't come on Facebook? Because I remember seeing it come in. Anyways, I'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I can't find. I'll find next episode of who sent it to us.
So it's.
I feel so bad.
Yeah. Okay. So
it's from Virginia,
from
I believe, right?
Lamplighter Coffee Roasters.
Yep.
It's called Swift Walker Blend Peach Candy, Nougat Floral, and it is really good.
And you brewed this in a way we've never brewed before.
Richmond, Virginia.
Like, we've never had coffee brewed this way. So how do we brew this? It's called the Smart Drip, Clever Drip?
The Clever Drip. Yeah, it's a new way you haven't seen. I've never seen it. It's actually my way of making coffee at work.
Oh, okay.
So
we talked about that on the show. I think.
If anybody's ever used like a tea infuser, it's just like a tea infuser. You basically, it's this contraption. You put your coffee grounds in the filter, you pour water over, and it sits for 3.5 minutes, and then you put it on top of your cup, and it pushes a little plate underneath, it pushes the plunger up in, slowly drains.
I will say this though, it's a good coffee hit. It's good, but it's peach candy. I think that's what I'm tasting. I think I'm tasting the peach.
It's supposed to be an espresso blend. It says on the bottom.
Oh, no wonder it has a sharp little punch to it.
So
we gonna be up all night tonight. But either way, for some reason the name Brandon pops in my head, but I don't think that's right. But I know it's from Virginia. We'll find it between the episodes because we got to keep cruising. But the Lamplight Coffee Roaster, we're drinking that this episode. Next episode, Sabrina, we'll be drinking your stuff.
Lamplight Coffee. Lamplightercoffee.com. You can go buy yourself a bag of this.
Now, we're not drinking it today, but I did hear back from our friends over at Brew It Forward Coffee Co. And Jared and Marianne said that quite a few listeners actually used the coupon code this Christmas season.
Awesome.
So I know my buddy Clark, I've been talking with him a lot. This was his first good coffee he ever bought. His parents only buy Maxwell's house.
He's a virgin. So a good coffee
He's
virgin.
also a high schooler. So
he's a good coffee virgin.
There you go. So his first ever real good coffee that he bought, done himself, all kind of stuff, was Brew It Forward Coffee Co. He bought the 3-pack for Christmas, used the coupon code, and apparently a ton of you guys, maybe not a ton, but a good chunk of people actually used the code. So they want to say to you listeners, thank you for supporting their
And we want to say
stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for trusting us with your coffee.
Because it's good. It is some good stuff.
The Colombian that I just got from them. Oh.
I got their Ethiopian. Now, I will say, just being honest, this is probably not my favorite Ethiopian I've ever had.
No, but your Mexican, the Mexican we had was to die for.
The only one that beat the Mexican is your Mexican, and that's because I love you. But their Mexican was so good. But I would say it's probably my second or third favorite Ethiopian I've ever had. Wow. But the Peru one was really good.
Oh, yeah.
The Costa Rican one was amazing.
Right.
But their Mexican.
The Colombian's really good. And yeah, I didn't try the Ethiopian, but maybe sometime.
But hey, before we get into the review and the conversation, because the banter. Some of you guys have been commenting on the reviews that you love the banter, so I'm glad you guys enjoy it.
I'm too. We say it all the time. We're the Kelly and Ryan of podcast world,
and obviously we know who I am. So
Ryan.
Oh, thank you. That's a compliment.
Well,
my hair is a little long right now, though. But we have a new game to play in 2022.
We do. It's called Party Cues.
Party Cues.
Party Cues is just a bunch of random questions. And so I went to the deep section because we've been doing kind of the get to know you section from the would you rather.
I'm trying really hard not to make bad jokes right now.
So the deep section. You ready?
I don't know.
If you taxed a behavior to make the world a better place, but also to make a significant return, what behavior would you tax? What behavior would you tax?
Can I tax like kids who scream?
But you also need to make a significant return.
Oh, I would tax
like you need to get a lot of money back.
I'd probably tax people for this is going to sound really bad, but flipping people off.
Oh, see, I would tax.
Because I see that all the time in driving.
I would tax coffee drinkers.
Really? But no, what was the question? Say the question again.
If you taxed a behavior. So drinking coffee.
That's not a behavior.
Sure it is.
That's a way of life, bro. A behavior is like a bad attitude.
Well, flipping somebody off is not a behavior.
Yeah, you're behaving poorly.
Okay, so that's a behavior, but flipping somebody off isn't a behavior.
Okay, fine.
See, you want to get technical. I was just rolling off of your answer.
Good. But if you had to tax a behavior, that's the weirdest question.
All right, let's do a different one.
Let us know what you guys think. If you could tax a behavior, send us a message.
Last one, and we'll move on. You are being told that you will become famous tomorrow.
Oh,
but not for what? What is the most realistic reason you can come up with of why you'd become famous?
We be podcast famous, baby.
You would be famous for eating?
Famous for eating?
I don't know.
I'm
trying to be humble here.
I would be famous, in all honesty, for my forgetfulness.
Ooh. Only with texting.
Oh, can I?
Actually, you've been a better texter recently.
Can I tax forgetfulness? Is that considered a behavior? Because I'd be rich.
I'll allow it.
I will say this. I am the world's worst texter and communicator. I mean, I message people all day long for work, so I'm terrible when it comes to personal life. But my entire family thought you FaceTimed me. That's my reputation with my family. When we FaceTimed on Christmas morning and I FaceTimed you, everyone's like, did Fuller FaceTime you? I didn't hear your phone go off. I'm like, no, I FaceTimed him. And they went, why? And I'm like, am I not allowed to FaceTime my buddy?
I was confused. I'm like, oh, Marc's FaceTiming me. And you were like, hey,
it was not
Merry Christmas. And I'm like, Merry Christmas to you, buddy. It was it was one of the highlights of my, obviously I had a lot of highlights with family, but it was one of the highlights of my day.
That's good to know.
It was very pleasant.
My mom even knows me. She goes, Marc, you never call, let alone FaceTime people. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, Mom. I don't.
Pretty sure other than like construction questions, that's the very first time you've ever FaceTimed me. But it was awesome. It was great to see you and hear you, especially because we hadn't spent much time together.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's get into our last bit of the section before we dive into this deconstruction.
The review.
And this is, I got to reposition here.
You got to reposition. These new chairs, man, I feel too comfy to podcast.
They're so nice. This table was like that much higher about 5 hours ago before I cut the legs off to fit for these chairs.
You cut the legs off this table?
Yeah. I cut the legs so it would come down. So it wouldn't be
I like it.
Like here.
I like it. But anyways, so we got the review.
We got the review.
We got the first, well, I would say
official.
We've gotten a 1-star review before.
And I don't know how to take this review, if this is actually a listener or if it's a troll that just saw, Real Talk Christian podcast and decided to go and post something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know, but go ahead and read it.
The 1-star is from AZGLCT.
Wait, first of all, let's round of applause for the first 1-star.
Yeah, well, technically it's second. This is the second 1-star.
The first official 1-star.
Right. It says, I have been seeking opportunity to grow in my faith and learn what it means to truly be a follower of Christ. This leads me to believe that religion is still just a tool for men to have full control over women.
I still don't understand
that. If you know our wives, we don't control them.
I still don't understand that statement. So if you are a listener,
let us know.
elaborate. Send us an email at realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com and elaborate on that a little bit, because I'm not sure what we said and if maybe it was taken wrong,
I don't know.
Or if I don't know. I don't know, but I'd like to know, and I'd like to continue that conversation. I mean, I don't care. Really, the rating doesn't matter to me as much as the conversation of it sounds like they don't like Christianity and it hurt their faith, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't want that, and so I'd rather continue the conversation. So what was the tag name again?
I just lost it. AZGLCT.
If that's you, get a hold of us. Either call us 574-400-5352 or get a hold of us, realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com, to continue that conversation, if you would not mind.
And we mean it.
And we absolutely mean it, because if we hurt the name of Christ in any way, I mean, we'll be the first to repent for it if we misspoke or spoke unbiblically. But if it's hard to. I don't like leaving stuff like that.
Yeah. And I will say, for all the other people that have reached out to us, I know we have some messages still hanging that we're trying to get back to, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
So
how about a good review before we jump in?
Let's do a good review.
This is from Stad32 back on December 18th, the day before my birthday.
Whoop, whoop.
I am officially 30, guys. It says, I have been listening to the show for a few months now. I wanted something to listen to while at work since I got tired of listening to music. Me too, buddy. Me too. But Ben Rector just released a new EP, so I'm very happy. Found this show as soon as I typed in Christian podcast on Spotify. I usually listen to reruns every day at work and sometimes multiple times per day. Then when that new episode hits, I'm right on the play button. Was from me. Very informative. These guys have debates over some hot topics that Christians face a lot. Plus, they actually message you back if you have any questions. 10 out of 10. We'll continue to listen. Well, Stad32, you the man. If you're a man, I think so. I've gotten in trouble a couple times for saying the wrong gender because of usernames.
It's okay. I mean, that's why we just
love covers a multitude of sins.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, he said there that we talk about highly debated topics, and this is one of them that we're going to get into today. That's one of the things that
It's a hot button issue, and actually. Last night, I got sucked into a deep rabbit hole finishing up preparing for this conversation. I don't know if you know this or not. Well, I mean, you obviously, I think you know this guy's name. Maybe not. Maybe you're not familiar with it. But do you know the name John Piper? He's that really old dude, that theologian.
Slightly.
Oh wait, look, you have a whole shelf of your bookshelf dedicated to him.
Oh, is that me?
So we all know John Piper, right? DesiringGod.org, right? .org. He was actually, I didn't realize this. He was in the early days of Passion Conference with Louis Giglio.
I remember him talking about
I know
that.
He was an early speaker, but I think he was on the early ground floor.
I think so too.
With Louis Giglio, maybe not, but I think so. But just like everybody, he has kids, right? And Barnabas Piper is he's an associate pastor down, I think somewhere in Nashville, Tennessee, or something like that. But he has another son named Abraham Piper, and Abraham looks like spitting image of his father.
I'm just so disappointed he didn't name anybody Peter.
John and Peter?
No, Peter Piper.
I don't have a rim shot ready. That was funny.
Anyways,
that was funny.
Anyways.
But literally, he looks like the reincarnate version of his dad if his dad had super long hair. Like super long, gorgeous silver hair. It's just kind of funny. But, you got John Piper, right, who has written some of the best theological works ever. And obviously, there's some things in that with Piper, right, that you lean more towards with some and that I lean more towards with other things. But we love the man to death. Yeah. Great expositor, great pastor, great.
He's the modern day... I would say the modern day A.W. Tozer.
Oh, I agree with that statement, 100%. Yeah. And if you don't know who A.W. Tozer is, he's kind of like the modern day Augustine. How about that?
Yeah, or Charles H. Spurgeon. I mean,
he's a modern day one of those. Right, he'll be legendary.
Sure, exactly.
In future years. Yep. Well, so you think of him, all right, he loves Jesus. You know that he's raising Christian kids. And you see it with Barnabas, right? Barnabas is an associate pastor. He's writing books. He's on podcasts. He runs podcasts. He's preaching Jesus. He's baptizing people, doing all these things.
Right.
And then you have his son, Abraham, who, when he was 18, I don't know all the things, but apparently they used the term excommunicated from Bethlehem Baptist Church to come back.
Really?
To come back 4 years later and repent, which, I mean, if you look at earlier writings before he walked away again, they were kind of like, here's proof that church discipline works. But right now, Abraham Piper has one of the biggest followings on TikTok. Well over, not in general, but in the atheistic evangelical world, he has well over 1 million followers on TikTok.
Really?
And I mean, he's also an artist, so really amazingly skilled artist. But his TikToks, he has a lot of these, for lack of a better word, make fun of Christians. Specifically, he even calls his dad a fundamentalist Christian, which in our world we're like, we ain't fundies. Those are the fundies. We know who the fundies are.
I'm a little bit more fundy than you are.
But I went into this crazy rabbit hole, and he asks the questions that, to be honest, you and I have asked, you and I do ask, and he came out on a different side of the equation. And a lot of people think, oh, he's just attacking Christianity, when in reality, it's just him walking down the street and musing his thoughts. But, you got other thought leaders like Joshua Harris, who used a platform, he didn't use it, but he wrote, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, megachurch pastor, walked away from the faith, him and his wife split up, and now he uses a platform of, hey, I've gone through the fire, and I can help you build your platform. You have Marty Sampson of Hillsong. You have John Steingart of Hawk Nelson. These guys who are publicly, and they use the term, deconstructing their faith in order to rebuild something better. And so deconstruction has been a term that's been used. It's not a new term.
No,
it's not a new term. It's been around for a while, but it is a hot button term of deconstruction and deconstructing your faith. And what deconstructing basically means is literally tearing down everything you know, reestablishing your baseline, and rebuilding off of it.
Yeah, what your belief system.
Yeah. And so a lot of these guys are doing, honestly, and they call it public deconstruction, and now a lot of them are calling themselves Kevin Max too, evangelical. Yes, I forgot about them. Yeah,
yep.
And so they call themselves. They used to be evangelicals, but now they're evangelicals because they're no longer evangelicals. And so the question then becomes: okay, is deconstruction a bad thing, or is deconstruction actually a good thing that maybe we should all be doing, but maybe we're scared to do it? So before we even jump into the conversation, I want to read a real quick quote from Curtis Vanderpool to kind of set the stage for the conversation.
Sure.
It's an article from Relevant Magazine. Just like always, we'll have all of the links in the show notes. Knock on wood, hopefully. Here's his quote. It says, Christians are falling right and left. Is it supposed to be left and right? I always say left and right, not right and left.
I always say left and right, too.
So Christians are falling right and left. Evangelicals and Protestants alike are grasping feebly to understand what is causing this wave of evolving faith popularity referred to as deconstruction. In short, deconstruction is a popular term that refers to the practice of revisiting and rethinking long-held beliefs, specifically in the Christian faith. Richard Rohr is perhaps the most well-known Christian leader to popularize this term. Rohr often describes healthy faith development as one that undergoes 3 stages. The first is construction, building your belief system and worldview. Deconstruction, challenging that worldview and subsequent beliefs. And then reconstruction, rebuilding a new, more holistic set of beliefs and worldviews. A few years ago, deconstruction was a new term gaining some ground in the public, and today it is a culture-wide phenomenon with thousands of books, podcasts, and social media accounts dedicated to it. So the question of the day is, what should we do about deconstruction, and is it a bad thing?
That is the question of the hour.
It is a question. And, I was talking with Beth about this before we jumped is when I was at home eating lunch. I asked Beth about this because Beth and I both came out of the conservative, independent, fundamental Baptist world. And I'm curious to know what from the world you come out of on the other side of the equation, because you were more Pentecostal style growing up.
Yeah, very much so.
And so in the independent, fundamental Baptist world, if you questioned your faith, that was a proof of you're not truly saved, or you're wavering in your faith, or, and to the extent, and there's different types of independent fundamental Baptists. Sure. I know that. The type I came out of is different than the one Beth came out of.
Sure.
But the one Beth specifically came out of is you don't question the man of God. You don't question the man of Scripture, or you don't question Scripture. You don't question God. In fact, if you question, you need to be literally reprimanded and whacked you back onto the old paths, because you do not question your faith. And so a lot of the independent fundamental Baptist world is built around fear, almost to the same level that Mormons built fear into their followers of, it's one thing to not be a Mormon, but if you are a Mormon and you lead the Mormon faith, if you're wrong, you're the one who ends up in hell.
Right.
Not all the bad people, you. And so there's a lot of fear that's created where it's like, okay, we can't ask questions. It's not a safe place. So I always built my student ministry around that idea of this is a safe place to ask questions. And that's where you and I came up with this show. Obviously, we're okay with asking questions because every episode we ask questions. But specifically about our faith and deconstruction, is it a bad thing? But with you growing up, did you kind of have the same experience where you couldn't question your faith, you couldn't do the research and ask the big questions, or were you told us to sit down and just have faith?
Well, I guess growing up, I grew up a little bit different, being in a house church of where I grew up doing all the research for what I believed, and I was involved in the research that was going on in the church.
You were kind of in a church movement that deconstructed, I guess, from the traditional church structure in America.
Yeah. So
time for LaCroix.
That's where I'm on to. I've already finished the coffee, so I'm on the LaCroix. I think deconstruction can be used in two different ways, right? The term deconstruction. I think it can be used in a healthy way, and it can be used in an unhealthy way. And I was reading an article. Actually, it was from a podcast, ReviveOurHearts.com, on ReviveOurHearts.com.
Oh, yeah. With Revive Our Hearts, isn't that local? Like up in Michigan?
I thought so. I thought they were pretty close to around here. But they had Alisa Childers on. Childers? Alisa Childers?
Alisa Childers.
Childers, that's what it is.
I love Alisa Childers. Her YouTube channel.
And what she said...
Side note, we asked her to come on the show. We have not heard back yet.
No, unfortunately. But
so if we have a connection somewhere...
Hook us up. Anyways, I could not agree more with her on what she said in this interview. And I'm just going to go ahead and read real fast that way. Just this little portion of what she said. And basically they were asking how she would define deconstruction.
How she would define it.
How she would define deconstruction. And she said, that's an important question because you're exactly right. People are defining it in a bunch of different ways. I'm seeing two major definitions emerge. One I agree with, one I don't. Some people are saying deconstruction is simply just taking a look at everything that you've believed all your life, and you're trying to find out what's true. You're holding on to what's true, and you're deconstructing or getting rid of what's not true. I don't think that's actually what people mean when they talk about deconstruction. So what she just said there, right? You're looking at your deconstruction is simply talking about looking at everything that you believe in your life, and you're trying to find out what's true. You're holding on to what's true and deconstructing or getting rid of what's not true. Okay, that's where I stand with deconstruction, right? So even in my...
Because obviously, if it's something's not true...
In my theology, and what's my guiding path? My guiding path is always Scripture. Mm-hmm. So that's me. And you'll see as we continue on, but as she continues on here, that people take it to where they start even questioning, is there a God? And it's like, I guess I don't need to deconstruct that far. I think that's an unhealthy deconstruction for a Christian, unless you're really not in the faith.
But I don't think that's wrong for someone to do that, to go, because I've even gone that far. When you look at life and you go, okay, why would this happen?
I think there's enough proofs out there that, to me, I don't personally have to go.
Oh, no, I agree with you, but I've gone that far to be like, okay, you get to this point, it's like, okay, is there a God? And then you got to readjust your thoughts.
See, and I think that that's taking deconstruction too far for a Christian. I don't think that you have to go that far. I think you should have a baseline established through your faith. I think if you have to take it that far, maybe you're not needing to look at whether there's a God or not, but is your faith even real?
And I would say maybe we can get to this later, but I think that's good specifically for teenagers to ask, though, because teenagers are
is it my parents' faith or is it my faith?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if you go all the way to, okay, I don't even know if there's a God anymore, which that's where a lot of these popular YouTube channels, like what's his name? He does a lot of conversations with Sean McDowell, where he might be a little younger than us. There's also the Cosmic Skeptic, and I think he's a really fun listen too. But that's why I listen to that Unbelievable podcast so much, where they ask those questions, and they have the Christian worldview, and then the atheistic or the agnostic. But a lot of times, I feel like these guys they're asking the question, but it's the same thing we've talked about in previous episodes. Is okay, at what point do you just stop asking the questions? Sure, and you have to settle with an answer.
I mean, it's like. Well, let me finish reading this last.
You still got more.
I got just a little bit more, and then I'll move on to my next thought.
Go for it.
She said, "I think the way that you framed it earlier is more correct. It's in that it's actually more of a dismantling of the beliefs that someone held. I think it's built upon the idea that truth is relative, right? We want to tear down the constructs of truth we were given. We want to deconstruct those so we can live our own truth. This is the way that, I'm sorry, I skipped some stuff, but this is the way people actually take it, that we wouldn't just live our own truth. We want to take the truths, the actual truths that we're given, and we want to dismantle those truths, and that way we live in our own truth. And she goes, I think that's a dangerous game. And that's where I'm at. And that's where I say, is there a God kind of thing, is that's dismantling a truth that I think is dangerous for a true believer. I think you're playing with the game. It's like, to me, like the spiritual realm, right?
Okay.
If I'm hardcore studying into demonology, and that's what my sole focus is on, I think that's taking it too far. I don't think there's, and asking questions, well, why this about demons, and trying to find these answers. I don't think I need to as a Christian. I think there's some things that it's just like, what was before God created the world? Everybody's asked that question at one time or another, right? Mm-hmm. Or, hey, did Adam have nipples and a belly button?
That's my favorite question.
Just weird questions, and it's like, do you really need to know that? Is it important for where you need to go in your faith? And I think that no, some questions don't need to be answered, and you can take it too far that way. And then there's some dangerous questions where I would say, like, hey, I want to take apart all this, and I want to study Islam, but I don't want to just study Islam. Like, I want to start attending mosque, and I want to start, and like, you're like living the lifestyle. And I think there's that old saying, bad company corrupts good morals. I think that has some truth in it, to where if you continue to walk down that path, not saying it'll happen right away, but if you continue down that path, that you might find yourself lost. You might find yourself as one of these deconstructed, walked away ex-evangelicals or whatever.
Ex-evangelical?
Yeah, ex-evangelicals.
Yeah, and that would be something good to go into. But I think before we go too far down some of these other questions, I think it'd be fun to just really quickly address what are some common causes that actually cause people to deconstruct. And I can guarantee that there are listeners right now to this episode or watching on YouTube, and you guys have thought these same questions. And with some of these, I actually put specific people's names down as well. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go just see who these people are, these are some of the reasons why they left the faith. The big one, and this is honestly one that I struggle with, is the problem of evil and the problem of pain and problem of suffering. Like, I kind of categorize all those into one. Is one of the main causes is what's the problem of evil, pain, and suffering, of what's the purpose of it? Why do we have it? How come people over there suffer, but over here we don't? Why do good people, and I know there's some listeners who are struggling with, infertility and miscarriages, and our family's dealing with that too, of infertility and miscarriages. Like, we're in that same boat as what a lot of other Christian people are. Sure. And there's some really good people. It's like, why can't we just have this little child that we want to raise up to follow Jesus? But then you see people where it's like, you probably should be sterilized because you've had way too many kids. Well, and it's not healthy. It's not okay. Not healthy, but it's like the people who do good, it's like, I'm doing good, but I'm still suffering, and the people who do evil are prospering, which the Bible does allude to. Well, there's several scriptures. You got the reason why we have what we have in the world is due to sin, right? God reigns on the just and the unjust, and then all things work to the good and the glory of those of God to those who love Him, and that may not be those certain. This may be the story. I mean, why did Paul have to be executed? Why did Peter have to be executed? Why did Andrew have to be executed? I mean, why did they have to suffer for Christ's name's sake? I mean, that to me is a statement that serving God doesn't mean we're always going to have the easy life. Or that we're going to have the cakewalk or the dreams that we want. Now, Jesus, I've always found this interesting. Jesus said my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Sure. But at the same time, there's the cost of discipleship too. Sure. But, we don't know the ending of our story, right? Right. You don't know when your life's going to end or what path you're going to, from tonight to the end of your life, what path is going to look like for you completely. Right? It's like the paralytic man that Jesus healed, right? He went for 40 plus years as a cripple just so Jesus could heal him. I mean, 40 years he went, not knowing why, not being given an answer.
And yet he was that way so Jesus could glorify himself in that moment.
Right.
And so that's, I guess, I mean, I'm trying to be sensitive. I've had struggles, and my struggles haven't been the same as yours. Your struggles haven't been the same as mine, and ours haven't been the same as our listeners right now. But every person in this world has struggles that seem big to them. And we have to remember the truth and the promises that nothing is too big for God. One, all things work together for those who love God. Mm-hmm. And God has a plan laid out for our life that is not to glorify ourselves, but to glorify him. And those are the three truths we need to remember.
I like it. Well, I know this for a fact with the problem of evil, pain, and suffering. That's the reason, if you listen to all of this stuff, that's the reason why John Steingard, former lead singer of Hawk Nelson, Christian rock band, and he was even a worship pastor, worship leaderish. Yeah. That's why he said he walked away from the faith. Another one, though, is perceived problems in the Bible. Whether did the gospel authors really write the gospel?
This is a good one.
The letters, were they really written by the apostles? Sure. Or we have all these other extra scriptures, which, fun fact, we'll talk about next episode, right? Sure. The extra script Bible things in the Bible.
They're what they call missing books of the Bible.
Right, but it's like, how come we know these are the right ones, but not those? Like, how do we know? Like, is it this fact that the rich people, like, the idea, did the winners write the history books? And
there's answers for all that.
Yeah.
There's complete answers for all that, and we'll get into that more as far as the Bible goes.
And I know Bart Ehrman is the big proponent of that.
Yeah.
Of where did the Bible come from? What did Jesus actually say? All of the high-end scholarly research he tries to bring into a layman term. Well, he has debates on unbelievable all the time. In fact, they're re-airing a lot of his right now. So it's a really fun conversation of just what do we do with the perceived problems in the Bible?
And it's a real simple solution if you understand biblical hermeneutics. It really is. If you learn biblical hermeneutics, which takes about 25 hours worth of classroom time, you'll see, these really aren't problems in the Bible. But anyways.
Right, but that is a hurdle that some people do get stuck on. Another one is actually Christians themselves. Jesus' followers is a cause that people want to walk away from the faith, because if this is what the followers look like, followers, I don't want anything to do with the person that they follow. Gandhi once said, "I like your Christ, but not your Christianity."
Well, and this is why it's so important that we realize that we're ambassadors, like we've talked about for years now. The perception that people have on us is a reflection on how they see Christ. So
definitely. Another one, and I think this one is probably more valid than people give it credit to, is church hurt and church abuse, specifically from the pastoral team, spiritually, emotionally, physically, sexually abusing their flock.
And there's some good articles out there on that. And we've done a podcast on church hurt before.
Yep.
And that one, again, is each circumstance is going to be different. And you have to tread. I know I'm taking time on all these, but I think it's a good thing.
No, it's the conversation, bro.
Well, in case people do have these questions.
This is the conversation,
And with that, I see a lot of people that have talked about, and they go, church hurt. And I was like, okay, well, what do you heard? Well, they shunned me because I was living with my girlfriend. And it's like, it wasn't a shunning. They were just telling you what the Bible said. Like, they were helping you out, but you didn't listen. So I know a lot of people get offended, not because they were actually abused, but because the Bible was presented to them.
They didn't like it,
and they didn't like it. Right, exactly.
Right. But there's the Recovering Fundamentalist podcast I listen to in the group. Listening to and maybe a lot of it comes out of, I know, the independent fundamental Baptist world of control, and and we'll talk about this. We'll just say it. Another cause of someone deconstructing their faith is learning what they were taught as doctrine when they were kids. In reality, is just an opinion.
Right.
But it's taught as scripture, such as how to dress, what clothes you should wear, how long you should have your hair, should you cut your hair.
But what they do with that.
Music, tattoos, drinking, going to the movies.
Yeah, but what do they do with that? They go, I was taught wrong, so I'm leaving the faith, rather than going, they were wrong. So what's the Bible really say?
Well, but I think that's going too far, though, because a lot of the people that I have at least seen and chatted with and experienced, they don't leave the faith. They just have to go, okay, if this is what was taught, and including also that the King James Bible is the only Bible out there. And Obviously, we don't believe that. We're sponsored by the CSB. And I'm looking at your shelf. You have a lot. I mean, King Jimmy is still your favorite translation, though.
No, it is not.
Oh, no, NET.
No.
Not even the NET? The CSB?
The CSB is up there now.
About time.
It is, this, I'm
Welcome to the family,
CSB,
bro.
NET, ESV are like all top 3
really?
for me right now.
Me and Soche are both proud.
And I grew up
King Jimmy.
KJV only.
And again, and we're not saying there's anything wrong with it.
And there was a deconstruction, the healthy deconstruction process. Well, I'll talk about that because I see.
And that's what I'm saying. So there is some healthy deconstruction process,
but
it just makes you ask the question of what else have I been lied to about?
We have to be careful as Christians with that term, though, because progressive Christianity, and it's happening a lot in progressive Christianity of this deconstruction. But it's a deconstruction in an agnostic way.
Okay.
And so just saying deconstruction can really throw somebody off. If they go, okay, well, let me research deconstruction. And instead of understanding proper, healthy, what we would call deconstruction, they're learning an agnostic version of it, which ends up ultimately leading them away from
philosophical,
Christ.
yeah.
Right.
I would say, and I want to go back and just finish the church hurt,
Yes,
church
yes,
abuse.
I'm sorry.
There is true church hurt and church abuse
Definitely,
that people
definitely.
have to deal with and
Sure.
struggle with. And thankfully, you and I have never been the recipients of that
Well,
in terms of ways some people have.
I have, but not in the way physical abuse or anything like that.
Right. And so, and we don't want to belittle or diminish
Not
that
at
at all.
all.
It's true that that's a common cause that caused people to potentially deconstruct their faith and walk away.
Sure.
And the last one is pluralism. The fact of, is Jesus really the only way, or are there other ways?
Yeah.
Because why does it have to just be Jesus? What about the people in the rainforest that never heard about Jesus or God, or all the Islamic people, or all
see that
this, or
in the
all
New
that?
Age universalism? We see that a lot. That's where people end up lying in that camp a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those were just, I just wanted to write them down because I thought they were just, good. And I'm glad you processed them out because I wasn't prepared to process them out like you were. So,
well,
awesome.
I wanted to talk about them a little bit.
I love it. So here's just a bunch of random questions that I have about deconstruction, which will hopefully lead us to going, okay, so if someone is dealing with struggles in their faith, what should they do? So one question I have is, are we allowed to question our faith, or is questioning our faith a sign that we're not really saved?
I think there's a difference between questioning faith and questioning what you believe.
Okay.
I think those are two different things. So are we allowed to question our faith? I think questioning your faith is, man, am I really saved? Like, to me, that's what questioning your faith is. And maybe that's not the way you meant it. When I see questioning your faith, that's what I think of. And it's like, man, I've done that myself many times. Like, am I really saved? You got the scripture that talks about, what does it say now? And I just lost it. I just listened to a podcast by Piper today, and he used it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. Making your calling and election sure. And I don't remember where it's found at right now.
Well, there's also work out your salvation with fear and trembling.
right?
Is that 1 Peter, 2 Peter? I want to say that's in the Peters.
Peters or John? Oh no, it's not a John. Maybe a James.
It's in there somewhere. It's not James.
New Testament. Anyways, but and I really struggled with that for a long time until I really understood and studied. And I know some people are not going to like this, but the election, being the elect, right? Chosen. How we would never choose God unless he first chose us, and unless he pursued it and guided our steps through the Holy Spirit to him, we would have never chose him.
Yeah.
So he predestined and chose us and called us. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm following you, so my faith's got to be real, because I wouldn't be following you unless you gave me that desire first. Right. So that's when I think of questioning faith. I think, yes, if you're a truthful Christian, at some point, at some time, even if it was in the deep darkness of your bedroom late at night,
ask the question.
You've gone, am I really saved? Now, if we're talking about questioning our beliefs, right? Like, man, is the earth really a young
really
earth?
Flat? Oh.
Well, no, is the earth like a young earth, or like, did that really happen? And, again, I think there's some questions that are healthy, and there's some questions that have potential to not be healthy.
And see, I would say all questions are okay, but I would say some are not helpful. It's like the Adam with the belly button. Well, it's a funny question.
No, but I'm sitting here thinking, like, if I'm asking a question about, did Christ truly die on the cross, right? This is
Right.
what I believe, right?
Well, now we know that's like a historical fact. But it's more of what did he accomplish?
But if I don't know any better, right? And if I don't, this is why I say it has potential. It's a question that has potential to be dangerous, because if you're not sharing that question with somebody and you're just thinking it and thinking it
and that's it. And I wanted to bring that out as the fact of it's not doubt that's bad. It's in Kara Powell. I'm stealing this from Kara Powell. I have it pulled up right here. She says it's unexpressed doubt that is toxic to your faith.
If you're not sharing that and getting the truth, right, then it has that potential to be dangerous, because you have a potential just to stay lost or get bad advice or look at bad facts and make a decision and go, well, Christ wasn't real. And it's like, wait a second, no, he really died.
But I'm more on the side where I don't think any question's a bad question, because I think
that's why I said it has potential to be dangerous.
It has potential to be dangerous, but I think it's fair to say that, God's big enough to handle our questions too,
Sure. Oh, definitely. In the right setting, right? In the right mind frame. And if you don't have it, maybe expressing it to a close tribe member. Follower of the way.
So coming out of that question, then,
sure,
not just question our faith, but are we allowed to question God? Now we had the podcast episode of what's one question you would like to ask God. Like that was more of a tongue-in-cheek episode, which it was a fun one.
It was.
But are we allowed to question God himself of what is happening, what's going on? Why is this stuff going the way it's going,
Well, you can question him all you want. Doesn't mean that you're going to get anything out of it.
Right.
You've got a bunch of people here, and I'm looking at it now about the people in Scripture that questioned.
My favorite one is Job.
So the Job thing, though,
the parentheses it says, just read the book.
Yeah. So, but Job, it was like he didn't question God till the very end, and when he questioned God, God like slapped him across. He backhanded him. He's like, "Yeah, who are you? Were you there when I created the earth?" It was like, "Oh, Job's in trouble."
but I don't think God did he ever scold Job for the questions, or did he just say, "Who were like?" But seriously, like, where were you when I created the earth? You weren't.
That was a scolding. That was a scolding for asking, "Why is this happening to me?" That was a scold. But I mean, there's been plenty of. You got Abraham in here. You've got David. You got Jonah. You've got all sorts of stuff where Moses, I think you can question all you want, but it doesn't mean God has to answer, and you can't be upset if God doesn't answer. I think it's a natural thing for man to question. Like, there's a difference between, like, Lord, why, and lament. There's a difference between a lament questioning and like, geez, God, do you really think that was a good idea? Like, I think that's a totally different level of like disrespect, and like,
right.
That's where you get the who are you?
It's kind of the idea of like for my kids. I know you deal with this now too. Is I have the kids where oh my goodness, I have so many emotions in my house right now, and they all have names, but like, something will happen. I'll just be like, and I won't be mean about it. It'll just be like, no, we're not going to do that. Or it's like, today, my little redhead Nora, she walked up and she's like, "Daddy, can you help me open my bubbles that I got from school right before dinner?" I'm like, "No, Nora, we're not going to do bubbles, especially in the house. Like, we're just going to put them away." All of a sudden, stomp, foot, cry. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? All I said was no. And it wasn't like a no, get in the corner. It was just that, no, we're not going to do that right now. Well, there's a time and a place, and now it's just not the time or the place. And all of a sudden, just, I'm like, "Beth, what happened here?" And she goes, "Oh."
But isn't it funny that that's how we act towards God?
All the time. And
we go, "God, man, why didn't I get that job?" And God goes, "Because I said no." And you're like, "Well, I really wanted that job, and why didn't you give it to me?"
And honestly, like with that, I'm never upset at her going, "Well, why can't I have the bubbles now?"
Sure.
And I think it's up to me to be prepared to not just say, "Because I said no," but it's like, this just now's not the time. There's better times to do it.
And it all comes down to attitude.
And I never get mad about the question. I get mad when the question's literally ask the same question 6 times in a row, and I'm like, just go to your room, because you obviously just want it, and you're going to try to wear me down. But guess what? You can't wear me down when you're not in front of me. But I get upset about the way they handle the answer, and if they show, because I'm very big on respect. Of, you can disagree with Dad, You can not like what I say.
Sure.
You will not disrespect me because I'm
Sure.
your father.
Right.
And maybe that's pride. Maybe that's not. I don't know. But it's more of, and also doing that because your employer is going to tell you to do stuff you don't want to do. It's called it's called a job.
Sure. Unless you work for yourself or.
But then you have like I work. Yeah, sure. I work for myself, but I have like 8 bosses right now. So it's, yeah,
clients. You have clients.
I have clients, but they
tell you what
shots.
you do.
Yep, they run the shots. But either way, it's not so much. I don't have a problem when the kids question me.
Sure.
It's more of how do they respond when I give them the answer, or if I don't give them the answer that they want. Because I often don't give them an answer.
Right. And that's typically what happens to us, except for God just doesn't deal with it most of the time. Most of the time, he's just like, "Well, throw your temper tantrum, when you're done and calm down, we'll have a chat."
Yep. And so here's another question, and I think this is more so. I should have also put these Bible characters in the next question, but okay. So do we have biblical proof that it's okay to wrestle with our faith? And I see Abraham where he actually asked God. He goes, "There's got to be a righteous person in Sodom and Gomorrah somewhere." Like, do we have to kill everybody? And wrestling with the ramifications of that. And then, no, there isn't a righteous. You see, Job struggling all over the place. You see David flat out saying, like, "Oh Lord, how long will you turn your face from me? Like, come, like."
It was a psalm of lament. Yeah,
a song of lament. And then you see Jonah, which Jonah is actually fascinating because it doesn't end on a good note.
No, it ends on a very bad, basically, well, there goes your shade.
Yeah, like that's it. But my favorite passage in the Bible is the man who brought the son to Jesus.
Sure.
And what did Jesus say? He goes, he was faith, like basically, if your faith will make him whole. And the dad said, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." And that's been a verse that's been ringing in my head for about the last 4 or 5 years. The last winter retreat I did with the students before I resigned, so that's probably at least 5 years ago. That was a theme verse for the week of "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." And what does that mean to play that out?
Sure.
But anywho, the last question is can deconstruction be helpful to our faith?
Again, I personally I don't like using the word deconstruction. I like the word self-reflection.
Okay.
Because you're self-reflecting on what you believe. Right?
Okay.
It's a self-reflection.
So then if, let's say, which we both have, we have a belief in something.
Sure.
The more we study it, the more we're like, it doesn't quite work that way. Don't
Sure.
you have to tear down that belief to rebuild it?
Let me give you, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So, because I'm saving the Bible translation one for the next question, but this one I'll say, my end time eschatology belief, right?
Bro, that changes every day.
I used to be stuck up, no, this is the way it is, and the rest of you are just
a bunch of idiots.
Idiots, yeah. And now I'm so after over a year's worth of deep, diligent study of it, I'm like, well, this is what I believe, but it could be this too.
Right.
I mean, I see more evidence for this, but really I don't know, and really it doesn't matter. And so my stance on it has completely changed, and it took study. And I just remember conversations between Brandon Sauché and I, and because we came from two very vastly different eschatology beliefs. Mm-hmm. And now we're a heck of a lot closer, and he hasn't moved a bit.
Yep.
But it took me looking at why do I believe what I believe. And I do not think that that's a bad thing. I think it can be helpful in the right setting with the right motivation. And if you aren't strong in the faith with the right guidance, I think that's important.
Something I've struggled with, though, is when, I'm the type of guy where it's follow truth wherever it leads. But I also know in that statement, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So if you're following truth, where are you going to end up? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I have to be careful who I say that phrase to. But I think some people are which my biggest fear of this, in fact, this is getting personal for me. Hey, have fun. Do Marc or Fuller have a story about deconstruction? Well, I guess here's one.
Here we go. Moving into the next question.
I told my counselor, stuff that I'm dealing with, and he goes, "What are you most afraid of?" And in terms of my faith, in terms of following Jesus, he flat out just said, "What are you most afraid of?" And I said, I'm most afraid of waking up one day and going, "I don't believe any of this crap anymore," and walking away and going, I have an undergrad and a master's in theology. We run the podcast. I was a pastor for 6 years, and I still work in for local churches and with local churches every single week. And then walking away going, yeah, no, I'm out. I'm done with it. I'm out. Because I've seen a lot of, in my opinion, good, solid believers who, when you read their writings when they're younger, man, they write in line. Now they got maybe some weird, whacked out, like personal things, like Joshua Harris, like his dating goodbye is just weird in some regards. He was also 24, 20, was it like 22 and single?
He was
like,
in his
come
20s,
on, bro.
yeah.
Like, you can't write a book on dating if you've never dated anybody before. But that's besides the point. But you see these guys who they're pastors. Like this one guy, I forgot to bring his name in. He was a author for, I think, Desiring God. He has a PhD in theology.
Sure.
He has he's been a featured speaker. He traveled and taught at churches all the time. Last year he said, I'm out. I'm tapping out. I'm done. And that is a fear of mine. Of what happens if I wake up one day and I just go, none of this is true.
Well, and there's some,
just being completely honest,
there's some safeguards that you can set up. There's being open and honest with a trusted, close person like Neil, me, our listeners now.
Yep.
But my big thing is are you spending time in prayer? Are you spending time in scriptures? And are you surrounding yourself with a God-honoring, God-fearing, God-uplifting tribe that you can lean on in your hard times? And those are the big things, because if you're not doing those, Satan cannot break a church that is tight-knit and closely following God. But what he can do is start batting away somebody, getting them out into their own little world, and then he can take them down, just like a lion does a gazelle. It's pretty easy.
Well, what does the passage say? He seeks out whom he can devour.
Sure. He's not going to attack the whole group because they're strong, and especially with God. It's when we're on our own that we become weak. And that is something that has become more prevalent to me in the last 5 years than ever before. That when I'm by myself, I'm weak. But when I'm surrounded by brothers and sisters who love and seek the Lord, and I'm doing my part of staying in my word and speaking with God, I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way. Because there's a lot of years I did feel that way, and a lot of years I walked a bad path. I walked into the drug path after being raised in church all my life, and the drinking and the womanizing and everything else. I walked that path, and I know where that path leads. And I know without God, who brought me out of that, because it was only God that could have brought me out of that, if I don't stay close to him, it's easy to fall back into that trap. Because it's never just one foul swoop that sweeps you off the path. It's always these little steps. This little thing, let me get you away. You're too busy to pray tonight. Oh, now you're too busy to pray every week. Now you're too busy to pray every month. Oh, you pray at dinner. That's good enough. Oh, what about your Bible? Yeah, you're way too busy. You just need some downtime. You need to just watch TV. And I'm guilty of this, just like I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. You let things distract you. And then you've come to find yourself like, maybe I don't think about God as much as I used to when I was doing these things. And maybe my life is starting to reflect, and even my attitude is starting to reflect something that's not as good as or as close as what it was to what I'm supposed to be. And it's just like, well, when did that start? And you start thinking back and you're like, well, I haven't been really reading my Bible, and I haven't really been praying, and I really haven't been hanging around my tribe very much. Yeah, okay, I can start seeing why I'm going down this path. We got to have some corrective action here, but yeah, so that's just the way I feel about that.
Yeah. And I would even say this too. I mean, it kind of, I guess, lands the plane for what should someone do if they're starting to struggle and figure out what they need to do with this whole deconstruction thing. It's saying whenever people start to go down that deconstruction path, and maybe you are, there's a lot of times when I listen to the interviews and the conversations, and I listen to a lot of them.
Sure.
They ask questions, and then they start to try to figure out the answers. But a lot of times they're not willing to, settle on answers that are just okay with open-ended answers, or they ask the question and then go listen to this without listening to anything that was already inside of their own camp. And, I wrote down a lot of stuff here, like, resources if people are questioning their faith. We love gotquestions.org on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
It's easy ways to get really solid answers to questions that you have. Alisa Childers' YouTube channel, she speaks out against progressive Christianity left and right. John Cooper's podcast, actually, too, from Skillet.
Yeah, right.
His stuff is amazing as well.
They're both apologists, that's why.
Exactly. And it's hilarious to see, like a Sean McDowell, which his YouTube channel, he's been having a lot of conversations like every week with specifically self-proclaimed progressive Christians or self-proclaimed atheists or cosmic skeptical type people. Every week or every other week, the dude's having actual dialogues with people on his YouTube channel. Unbelievable is another one that I do all the time. This is one that we haven't talked about very much, but it's Theology in the Raw by Preston Sprinkle.
Yeah, I haven't heard that one.
That's one that I once in a while will binge on. It's more of there's a YouTube channel for it as well. It's also audio podcast. He's the type of guy, though, where he is a conservative when it comes to gender identity and gender dysphoria and all these different things.
Sure.
But he's one of the few people that are Christians that I know that goes like, yeah, I don't think, or I should say is that God created male and female separate, distinct, to have their each characteristics, and by you mutilating yourself, you're mutilating the creation of God, and the husband and wife relationship is the way God created to be, and that's how it functions well in society. But he's the only guy I've ever met who preaches that, but also has friends who are gay and transgender and live in the lifestyle because he goes, God calls me to love my neighbor, and he's my neighbor because I live in this part of the country, so they're my friends. But he's very dogmatically strong in what he believes. I mean, he's just absolutely phenomenal. Another one's the Perry family, Jackie Hill Perry. I can't remember her husband's name. She wrote Gay Girl, Good God, about God doesn't call you to be straight, he calls you to be holy, which we brought her up in other episodes. But, there's so much good content out there in the Christian world where, a lot of times Christianity is hailed as the religion that doesn't think. Like, we don't have thinkers. And there's many years where Christianity wasn't thinking, just have faith. You just got to have faith. You just got to have faith. And if you waver, you must not have faith. There's a rich history of Christian thinkers out there. You just got to find them and study them and see what they have to say as well. But at the end of the day, the question is, how can we find God? How can we know God? And we both believe, I would say we're very dogmatic in this regard of the cool thing about Christianity isn't just the fact of we can get to God, but that God became man, dwelt among us. Yep. So why don't we go to the person who said they were God, rose again from the dead, and his followers followed him all the days, Right. And so a lot of other religions, some of them, have Jesus in their religion, but Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, Islam, even though there's Christian or Jesus in that religion, is that the same way that Jesus called the Father was? Because Jesus never called us to be a Christian. In fact, Jesus wasn't a Christian. No. Well, Jesus was a Jew.
Well, yeah.
And then there are people who followed after him as the Messiah, the King of the Jews, and then they called them Christians.
Well, disciple simply just means student.
Right.
So he had students, and then they created students that they taught what their master taught them to them, and then it spread.
And that's it, is we're not called to be Christians, we're called to follow Jesus.
Right.
And I think sometimes we get stuck in the minutia of what that means too.
Sure. We get stuck in the, who was it? What was his name? I just listened to this whole podcast. It was like a 6-hour long thing about forgiveness. And he said,
what?
And he said, we get stuck in these, what he calls the Christian cliques. And it's like, I become a Christian and then like, I can't be around the world and I can't do this because I'm a Christian. I got to be set apart. And so I can never associate with Christianity. And Janelle and I talked about this past week. And it's like, but that's not what Christ called us to do. He called us to go make students of those who didn't believe, and that's who he surrounded himself with most of the time.
And we had an episode. I don't remember what number it was, but we're not called to, like the class said, be in the world, but not of the world. It's you're already not part of the world, but you're sent back into the world.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what Jesus prayed when he prayed that final prayer for his disciples. He didn't pray for protection and for the hedge of protection around them. He said, no, protect them, or he didn't pray for a hedge of protection. He prayed for their personal protection.
I still want to know where they got the hedge of protection in the Bible.
I mean, it didn't really save them when they were being thrown to the Coliseum to the lions,
right.
But
that hedge of protection.
Oh, goodness. But to end the episode, man, is there any other thoughts that you got to land this plane? I'm out of stuff, man. I'm good.
The only thing that I think is important to remember is that through all of this, there is always one truth that has been around for 2,000 years. Well, since 2nd century in writing, but word of mouth has been around for 2,000 plus years, especially if you include the Tanakh, or what we call the Old Testament, even way longer than that. But there's been one truth, and it's been God's core fundamental ways that he's handed down to the human race. And it's the one truth that everything should be measured up against. So as you're going through, if you want to call it deconstructions, self-reflection, whatever you want to deem it as, I strongly encourage you to use that one truth to measure every other truth off of. It's your one center line. As a Christian, if you're questioning whether you're a Christian or not, if you're questioning the essence of your faith, maybe you need to look at, was I truthful when I became saved? And maybe start there. Am I saved? Am I a Christian? Have I fully surrendered my life to become a student of the Master, a follower of the way?
I like it.
That's where I'm at.
I like it, man. Well, should we land this plane, do a little bit of fun fact?
Let's land the plane,
I mean,
my
we
friend.
are already having a disco party with our light up there, but let's do it.
All right.
Time for fun facts with Filler.
I missed that laugh.
The first new fun fact of 2022.
Whoop, whoop. What do we got? It better be good.
So
Make sure it doesn't suck.
well, it's odorless, I can tell you that. Did you know, Mark, most Korean people don't have armpit odor?
Wait,
Recent
that sounds weird. Okay.
Recent research at the University of Bristol found that only 0.006% of the Korean population has the ABCC11 gene. This gene is the cause of armpit odor. In fact, the study found that most Asians don't have this gene, but Koreans have the lowest number. While this may be surprising to us, it's not big news to in Korea, as deodorant isn't commonly found there.
So if you go to, I feel like I want to reach out to some.
They can play basketball all day and never get stinky.
I almost want to reach out. Well, they can still get stinky, just not from their pits.
Yeah.
But I want to reach out to some people that I knew that were missionaries in Korea and be like, all right, guys,
how much deodorant gets used that?
Because I also know that they actually they believe in something called it's some sort of death where if you sleep with a fan on and you die, that's the cause of death.
Is death by fan?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or with the AC. There's some weird things. There's some really, but that's a fun fact.
It's a fun fact. It's a really fun fact.
That's a real fun fact.
It's an interesting fact.
You want to know another fun fact?
What's that?
As of a couple months ago, people can also leave ratings on Spotify now.
What? Which is our most listened to platform
our most
right now.
listened to platform. So and people have been doing it. In fact, the most recent one was this past weekend. So if you do listen on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. Spotify, leave us a rating. YouTube, give us that thumbs up and comment on the video. We try to reply to every comment that's left on YouTube. And I know there's people who listen on Google Podcasts, and lately a lot of people have been finding us on Pandora out of all places.
And you know what? If you can't leave a comment or a rating there, you can always just email us.
Always.
We're always taking email.
Email or text message.
Or text.
Or Instagram or Facebook.
Or whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Whatever your choice.
But the easiest place to find all of that information is at realtalkchristianpodcast.com. That has links to everything you would ever need to know about the show, including wonderful bios of us, which I need an updated picture from you because the picture on the website does not look like you anymore.
I'm sorry.
So we need to get that. Janelle looks the exact same.
Well, yeah, but I
You have a beard now.
I gain weight. I lose weight. I have facial hair. I don't have facial hair.
So it's very. I updated my picture finally, so it's me and Beth, not just me and Elliot and Evie.
Well,
so
it was still a good, cute picture.
It was a cute picture, but we updated that picture. But if you want to learn more about us, feel free to hit us up there. We're almost at 1,000. Or no, wow, that'd
almost
be
at 90. We're just about ready to cross 90,000 downloads.
We're close, and we're almost close to 1,000 Instagram followers.
Well, what?
We are growing in leaps and bounds. So
let's make it 1 million, people.
Let's get it, guys. We love you guys. We are glad to be back in 2022. We got some fun conversations. But hey, until next time,
take it easy.